side for the week. My name is Lawrence MOETTE. It's Citizen FM 93.7. Yes, as usual, every now and then we talk about the unfolding political events across the country and perhaps sometimes across the globe. And it's not different today. We talk a lot of politics, a lot of things happening in the political scene. But before we go into that, today is International Day against drug abuse and illicit trafficking. Yes, this year's International Day against drug abuse and illicit trafficking focuses on the need to put people first by ending stigma and discrimination and strengthening prevention. This means stressing rehabilitation rather than punishment and incarceration for minor drug offenses. That's for that. On the political scene, a lot has been happening in the public space as newly elected leaders across the country confront the reality of their new responsibilities and the task of putting actions to promises made during campaigns. At the federal level, President Bola Tinubu has been very busy, both in terms of appointments and perhaps key policy initiatives. At the state levels, some governors are moving on, while a few others are getting distracted by activities of their predecessors. We will look at all that, and as usual, my guest is Amadine Uyi, is a bureau chief for News Central and also the head of Northern Operations. Amadine, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Lord.
Yes, and as is usual with this program, you can join our live stream on YouTube. Just type in Citizen FM 93.7, and also you can listen to us online on www.citizenfm.ng. And don't forget our social media platforms are there, 3 of them. On Facebook, you can follow us at Citizen FM Abuja. On Instagram, at Citizen FM 937. And also on Twitter, at Citizen FM 937. So that's our package for today. In the next 45 minutes or thereabout, we will be looking at unfolding political events across the country. But let's just touch briefly on the International Day against drug abuse and trafficking. There is a message from the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. He says 10 millions or tens of millions of people suffer from drug use disorder. Less than 1/5 are in treatment. Drug users are doubly victimized, first by the harmful effects of the drugs themselves, and second by the stigma and discrimination they face. People who use drugs can often face significant barriers to treatment and even health services for infectious diseases like HIV and AIDS and hepatitis. Meanwhile, drug traffickers continue to prey on drug users, rapidly escalating the production of dangerous, highly addictive synthetic drugs. This means upholding the human rights of people who use drugs, including by expanding preventions and treatment programs and health services. So that's just the essence of what the speech is all about. But back in Nigeria, General Buba Marwa, retired, the boss of the NDLA, that's the Nigeria Drug Law Enforcement Agency, has been speaking on challenges of combating drug use in Nigeria. Let's just listen to General Muabara on this.
In the past, and this may not be limited to us alone, because this was also brought up in only the heads of drug law enforcement agents meeting people. And I stopped them right there and I said, not in Nigeria. Yes, we go after the small people, but we also go after the big barons who are pulling the strings, and we've about 35 of those now. Some have been already convicted, and other the investigation is going on. As I said, we do twin strategy of dealing with them and dealing with their assets. So the truth of the matter is the challenges You mentioned one, which is the cartels themselves. They're very sophisticated. And if you see some of the seizures, the methods of concealment that they use clearly shows how sophisticated they are. But we have to be one step ahead. And how do we achieve that? Is by first making sure that our personnel are professional, well-trained, our operations are intelligence-based, within the framework of human rights. We have the right equipment. We work with other stakeholders, and that's a wide array of stakeholders and foreign partners. British, French, Americans, Germans, Indians, we all work together because it's a global problem. I wouldn't want to go further on the matter of challenges, as it's not for me to expose what are some of the issues that we face, but I have to also say that we get a lot of support from governments. For this reason, we in the NDLA have that we will not support decriminalization. That said, we do sympathize with the users. If you are hooked on it, you can't help yourself. The NDLA is prepared to lend a helping hand for treatments. That's where we stand. However, viewers have to be careful with this point, because possession in our law is an offense. But we make the decision. At what point do we determine that you need help or jail? That is our own little secrets down at the levels of the commands. Because if we say we catch you with hemp, but don't worry, we'll go and treat you for it, the whole thing is going to blossom into something else. Everyone. For instance, we made arrests of about 31,000 within this period. We've jailed, as I said, about 5,000. There are about 11,000 cases ongoing in the courts. You see there's a balance somewhere. Clearly, it means we don't take everyone to court. But based on our standard operating procedures, we're able to determine who needs help. Of course, the person who needs help first, it has to be voluntary. You have to accept you need help, but you have to determine, is that all there is to it? Or are you yourself a dealer? So these type of calculations, we have our own ways. In the past, this may not
be. Big Bang.
Yes, that was General Buba Marwa, the boss of the NDLA, speaking about the challenges of curbing drug abuse and trafficking, just in line with the International Day for against drug abuse and trafficking. My guess is, Amadine, before we go to politics, just briefly, everyone seems to agree that the NDLA is doing a fantastic job in the country, something that most agencies don't enjoy that privilege.
Now, first of all, I want to clarify something he made in that statement. He said they've arrested about 35, not drug dealers. Those are the leaders of the drug syndicate. Because we know that they've made several busts in billions. And when we mean in billions, busted several warehouses, busted these cartels at the airports. No wonder, just like you said, very rare for Nigerians to single out a government representative or a government official and say this person is doing well. Because beyond the fact that the NDLA has existed before. He has breathed a new lease of life into that agency. When you travel, you see them on the highways. They stop your vehicles. They do. Before, it was as if the NDLA had gone to sleep. But since General Marwa came back, he has indeed made Nigerians know that indeed government agencies can work. And the way to stop drug abuse is to stop the supply of drugs. Once you can cut that pipe, you see the youths who use these drugs, who he says still suffer double stigma or double jeopardy, they will not have access to these drugs. You know, there's nothing more painful than a parent to see a child you have invested your whole life earnings on, hooked on drugs, and drugs can destroy. And because drugs can destroy, there's a link between drugs and violence, drugs and crime, drugs and even those days when we covered defense, every time they busted a Boko Haram camp, you see excessive drugs there, tramadol. Sometimes that's why when people wonder, how do these people do the kind of things they do? It's because they have to get themselves high before they go on operation. That's why they can murder at will without thinking two times. So at this point in time, while we join the rest of the world to mark the International Day Against drug abuse and illicit trafficking, we have to commend the LDLEA for what they have done. I think at this point in time, we also need to place a spotlight on NAPTIP, because whether you like it or not, they are trying, but they are not getting the kind of results the NDLA are getting. They once upon a time, I would say, if you look at NAPTIP in the last how many years, NAPTIP has really gone down. And I hope the management will use today as a wake-up call. Is beyond, yes, I know they have a lot of activities, but the trafficking is still ongoing. Just a few months ago, we had to, through collaboration and press connections, we had to bring about 2 girls back from Dubai who were trafficked there for prostitution. Someone sent me a message about last month of a relative who was trafficked to Cote d'Ivoire for prostitution. So these things are still ongoing, and we need the government agencies. Remove bureaucracy and act. That is what the NDLA are doing. The NDLA, at some point in time, the last time we saw the NDLA this effective was during the military, during one of the Bamayis, I think one of the Bamayis when he just came. But we have seen how Marwa has gone against these cartels, these syndicates, taking the fight to them, wrestled them to a standstill. Now everybody knows that once NDLA gets you for drugs, you are gone. There's nothing like negotiation or nothing like connections or nothing like going to sort through the back door. Once they get you, you are gone. And that it is this kind of result we also want to see with NAPTIP in terms of trafficking of persons. I'm from a place where trafficking is very, very rampant, Edo State, and it's not something to be happy about. But you still that when you talk to people on the streets, you see that there's no sense of deterrence. People are still sending relatives out of this country for prostitution. The cabal and cartel who are trafficking young girls, they still walk the streets freely without that fear. What we want is that fear that the drug cartels and the drug barons now have, we should also feel that fear in the atmosphere when you walk on the streets of Benin and other states where trafficking is very, very rampant and common. We should feel that sense of fear, and these people should not tap and groom young ladies, innocent young ladies, freely. And then it is when they now get abroad, they now look for a way of escape. They are now looking for a way to bring them back. Which is very, very, very bad.
Just like yesterday, we had a set of Nigerians also who returned to the country. And just like you said, and I think kudos must also go to the last administration, the Buhari administration, for the support it gave to the NDLA, because I didn't remember that this is a very serious fight, and you feel you step on toes, powerful toes and everything sometimes. So if you don't have the complete backing of the CNC sometimes, and General Marwa, a retired general, and also the last administration, the president, a retired general, because remember the case of the former police officer that was involved in Super Cup and everything. At a point in time, it almost became an interagency crisis. But the government stood solidly behind the NDLA and that part. So it's something that we really need to appreciate. When an agency of government does well, we say so, because we always call them out when they don't do well. Always, and we will continue to do that. But once in a while, when we see an agency, I'm yet to see group of people, a lot of people speak bad about the NDLA in recent times, and this has not happened for a lot of government agencies. So it's something that we should really be thankful about. Amadine, thank you for that. But let's get back home. A lot of things has happened, Amadine, and in the last 1 or 2 weeks that you've not been here, things have really happened. Appointments have been made, but the defense, security is your forte, and I remember when I used to push you a lot to go into the land of the unknown without backup, and you survived there. But so security is your forte. Service chiefs are on board now, and they are fully in charge now.
Lawrence, every time service chiefs are appointed, is like a new breath of life, because you bring people who have their own ideas. Let me give an example. The new chief of army staff who was appointed is somebody that everybody have known to be a field person, an operational person. He was not a general that would sit behind the barracks and give orders. There are several generals who have distinguished themselves like this. They are boys. When you entered, you see, I remember when I went to Chibok, there was a colonel I saw. He carried his gun and was going on patrols with his boys. These men have earned themselves respect. They are gallant soldiers, not gallant in name. So when you have that kind of person, he had been very, very much involved. He's from Kaduna. He had been very, very much involved in the war against banditry. So you now make that kind of person a chief of army staff or a chief of defense staff. Definitely, he's not making decisions based on textbook knowledge or just operational doctrine. He has been there, and he knows the challenges the boys face. He knows the challenge. He knows what the bandits and terrorists, he knows their strategy. So you see, it's like a new lease of life. Now, if you look at the whole appointments in the defense, the chief of the air staff, the chief of defense staff, the chief of army staff, and the chief of naval staff, you see that they are like square pegs in square holes. Now, for the Navy, he has his work cut out for him. Just a few days ago, before he was appointed, you heard what the former leader of the Niger Delta People's Volunteer Force, Asari Dokubo, said. He said the Navy are responsible for oil bunkering. The last time I came, I said it clearly that the kind of theft of crude oil cannot be done without institutional support. So now the chief of naval staff already has his work cut out for him. Just as we talked about General Buba Marwa, who proved himself in the NDLA, these chiefs now, Nigeria's patience will only last for a very few weeks. Soon Nigerians will start judging them, because right now we are seeing attacks resurface on the plateau and in Benue. Now we have not heard much from the Kaduna axis, the northwest axis, in terms of banditry, but you will know that these criminal elements are not sleeping. They are calculating, making their own plans to strike. So now that they are service chiefs, a lot of us who are in the defense, who are sort of in the defense fold, journalists who have covered there and are interested in the performance of our military, a lot of us we'll be adjusting our lenses to see what they will do. In fact, what we heard was at the moment the chief of army staff took over, he did immediate redeployment, because security is Nigeria's number one demand from government. Once security is settled, everything will fall into place. Investors will be free to come. Farmers can go to farm. Local businesses will thrive. You are not afraid to lock your shop because you are afraid that people. So you see all these service chiefs. That is why now that the president has stamped his foot on the ground, we are not saying that the last service chiefs did not perform. No, because I know that the last chief of defense staff, General Rabo, was a highly competent person. You talk about the chief of army staff, the chief of air staff. Look at what they have achieved. The last set, to a large extent, they did very well. But now they have brought on board new faces with new ideas, with new strategies. Nigerians will be hoping that this will reflect on the war against terrorism, crime, and criminality.
All right, the phone lines are open now. You can call us on 0903 2229 797. That's 0903 2229 797. Or you can also call us on 0818 2222205 or 0818 2222206. It's still Insight on Citizen FM 93.7, and we're looking at unfolding political and social developments in the country, and we're staying with security for now. Amadi Nui is my guest. Amadi Nui is a senior editor. He is a bureau chief of News Central, and he's been helping us make sense of some of the issues unfolding in Nigeria. Amadi, you've spoken extensively on the security. I'm not surprised because that's your forte. But let's stay with some level of politics now. The Nigerian Federation, Amadi, the National Assembly is on board now fully, except for the appointment of or election of principal officers. We've had the presiding officers now. That is still in the works. But a lot of people expect the National Assembly to hit the ground running in terms of political and maybe electoral reforms that a lot of people have in mind. These things are not cut and join, as we say. It's not straightforward. You've covered the parliament for a long time, so you know how these things are. If there are going to be reforms, what are we going to expect? What should we be expecting? And what kind of reforms, perhaps, from your feeling of the populace?
Now, for the National Assembly, you know that every National Assembly has to look at the Constitution again. It's a key acts like the Electoral Act. They have to look at the Electoral Act again because the Electoral Act will still need some tweaking. Because these laws are not laws that were cast in stone. As society evolves, change, they say change is constant. 10 years ago, there was no Twitter, there was no WhatsApp. Alright, there was no WhatsApp 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. But now, WhatsApp is a medium of communication. In fact, I remember those days when I get to the office, the first thing I'll do is to open my mail to check for messages. Now, sometimes I spend 1 week without checking my mail. As you are sleeping in the night, when you wake up in the night, it's WhatsApp you are going to. Because everybody is now changing their means of communication and the rest. Mails are still important, but people don't use it as much as they use other, because information needs to be quick. Especially for us journalists. Yes, information needs to be quick. I remember now, most of the time, I spend a lot of my time on Twitter because while you are there on Twitter, you are getting information as it happens and the rest, and then you can react spontaneously to those information. So you see that the level of communication is changing. Such the level of the societal awareness changes and the rest. The current electoral act, we thought it would resolve a lot of issues, but the cases at the tribunal tells you that there are fundamental areas that the lawmakers will need to tweak again. Because once we can have elections that even the losing parties do not need to go to the election petitions court, then you know that the law or those who try to implement the law, they have done reasonably well. So now we are talking about reforms. There are so many laws that the National Assembly will need to look at, so many issues. In fact, they have their work cut out for them already too. Like the Senate adjourned because they needed lawmakers to have their offices. They mandated the clerk to assign offices to lawmakers so that they can come and they are comfortable at the National Assembly complex and they are able to do their work. But with the principal officers, the presiding officers already elected, for the other members, the parties will have a lot of input. That is why the election is not is not just as straightforward as it is, because most of them determine also representation, the minority leader, the majority leader, and the rest. It is the parties that will try to meet with their own caucus in the parliament to get a final input on those names. But we all are looking, we are still expecting the president. In fact, for many Nigerians, it's getting too late. They are expecting the president to submit the ministerial list so that the ministers can resume and start working. Nigerians are desperate for performance. They are desperate for change. Nigerians want government to prove itself that it can meet the expectations from the public, and it can solve teething problems that has held us down. Yes, the current administration, they have made some decisions which Nigerians have applauded. But like you said, the honeymoon will soon be over.
Exactly.
The honeymoon will soon be over. I think for those communities where they have seen citizens, their people attacked and the rest, the honeymoon has already been over for them. At this point in time, they'll be pointing fingers at the governor, at the president, and say, "You have come, but this thing is still continuing. What are you doing?"
Okay, Abade, before we continue, the lines are open 0903 2229 797. You can also call us on 0818 2222 205 or 0818 222 and you can also send us a WhatsApp message to any of these numbers if you don't want to call. Ahmadine, we are speaking at the federal level, but at the state level, sometimes we find some things maybe rather disturbing. Kano State, for example, the governor or the state government has gone on what some people have described as a demolition spree. And in Benue State also, there is a report that local government chairmen have been suspended, and so many other things. Some of the states seem to be taking a look at what their predecessors did.
Now, Lawrence, the truth about the matter is that in governance, sometimes there are some roads that you cannot walk past. Let me give an example. Let me start from Benue before I get to Kano. Benue, I think there was a committee that looked at, and the committee alleged that the local government chairman conspired with the last administration. I don't know what they mean by conspired, because local government chairman don't have a say. But maybe they felt that the local government chairman would have at least voiced out concerns, even if they have no power. Because right now they are being roped into the malfeasance that the State House of Assembly is alleging that the past administration oversaw. So that was why they were suspended. I've not seen that report, but I was aware, because like you said, putting my eye on the north, I have to really know exactly what is happening in the entire north. So I was aware of that issue in Benue State. For such, you might not be able to walk past. It's just like the issue with the CBN governor for the new administration to just say, don't worry, just go. No, there are some things you really have to explain to citizens. You owe that responsibility to citizens to explain to them how it happened under your watch. Now, the one I'm really disturbed is the one for Kano, because I think the current governor, he was a former commissioner, I think former commissioner of works or so, under the Kwankwaso time. But now, if somebody builds a plaza for how many billion, there are some things, and that plaza is, as people have paid shops, business is ongoing, sometimes you have to weigh your decisions. Removing that plaza from there, how will it improve the well-being of Kano residents? So, when the demolition started, so many people did not say, even those who were excited, who had a beef against the former governor, even right now, a lot of them are having a rethink and are saying it is going too far. That energy, because if those people acquire those lands legitimately, they will go to court, and it is still taxpayers' monies that will be used to compensate them, because you will not be a governor. Yes, you'll be a governor for 8 years, another person will enter. You will not be a governor forever. And when the court judges that you should compensate, the responsibility is on you to compensate, and it's not your personal money, it's taxpayers' money. So I think at this point in time, the governor should sit down and know that governance is not just about, it's not a game of vendetta.
But Amadine, where do we draw the line? Because over the years, we've seen governors that 2 months to the expiration of their tenure, they embark on award of contract. They embark on so many things that they didn't do in the last 7 years of the administration, thinking that, okay, when the next administration comes in on board, it might not have that will. When it compares the situation and say, okay, in the public good, let's just let it go. So a lot. I remember, your state, that was the case also, the Jumobi era before Governor Makinde took over, and it was even brazen. He said it. We are doing this. If they like, if the next governor likes, let him reverse it. And truly, the next governor reversed some of those things, and it's been on and on. That's one. Two, there's also this very disturbing trend that you find workers, I don't know whether they are civil servants, whether they are public officers, who virtually loot government houses and government offices at the end of their tenure, only for the next administration to now re-award contracts and furnish all those places. It shouldn't be like that, Amadine.
The truth about the matter is that a governor is a governor till the last day in office. There's a thin line. We have to draw a line between responsibility in governance and this thing, what you think should be your powers as a governor. You might have the power as a governor, but you should be responsible. We have had cases, just like you said, a governor that did not employ people in 8 years. A month before his tenure, he now gives. Sometimes some of these governors is part of the kind of politics we play. They want to pitch the new governor against the people.
A case in point is the conduct of a local government election.
Yes, they want to pitch the new governor against the people. So they know that what they could not stomach, they push it to the new governor so that he would react, and then the people will rise up against him. But it does not change the fact that a governor is a governor till the last day. But we are seeing some of these decisions. Let's look at it. It is with time you know whether those decisions were for the interest of the public. Let me give an example of one. When Obasanjo was about to hand over, he sold the refinery just how many days before he left. Nigerians cried, blue mother, a wicked man, this and this. But over 16 years, the new governor came in, revoked it. Over 16 years, those refineries are still comatose. In fact, I saw a report once, I can't remember, but I think the figure that was put was that in the last, is it 12 years or so, we have spent over 10 trillion or so
more than
on those refineries, and they have not worked. So sometimes we have to weigh these decisions. There are some that are outright childish and wicked. There are some that you really have to sit down, and as a new government, you have to be careful, be very careful how you step on those decisions, because they are probably a trap, but they would have benefited the people. Now, a lot of I can't remember the administration that has been able to escape from it. Even the administration that you see that is from the same party. Is even the governor's boy. Yet they still make those kind of decisions. Award frivolous contracts, award billions. The one that some of us cannot stomach is looting of cars and the rest for the property. And I don't think any governor will want to be carrying chair from government house. Maybe the staff will take advantage of it and say the governor is going, nobody will give account. But for the one with cars, we heard what is happening in Zamfara, where they said over how many cars is a sorry situation. And I think that our political class need to be more responsible. They need to understand that when you are giving a right to represent the people, is a commonwealth in trust. It's not your personal property or your personal funds. But a lot of them, they get carried away because of the power the governors wield. A lot of them wield power that they are like demigods. So with that, they even forget that they are ordinary mortal men and think that they can do and undo. But that is also the beauty of democracy, that after how many years, you still have to account, and a time comes that you must hand over, whether, no matter how popular you are, so that you do a review out of the office. And people on the streets, they will do a review. I'm sure the former president, if he goes to the Daura market and he asks, there are some people that will tell him the truth to his face now, that this is exactly how you run the country. And those people they represent the voices of the public, the voices of citizens. So you cannot say they are speaking gibberish, because they felt your policies. They lived through the time you had opportunity to oversee them as the president. So, like I said, the beauty of democracy is that nobody is absolute in office, except you are running a dictatorship. And Tango, Nigeria is not like those states where they have turned a political leadership into family trust, where a father rules for 30-40 years. By the time he's going, he hands over to his son, and that one now begins to groom the next son. Tango, we're not in a country like that. And so everybody will have to sit down and review your own actions when you leave office.
And you know, Amadine, sometimes these actions force governments to take some decisions that might look very absurd. A case in point is during the Obasanjo era. Remember when we used to cover the National Assembly? They came to a time that, okay, the government now said, lawmakers, the property in your office, you buy it off and pay to the government, so that when you're going, anyway, those properties will be looted either by you or your staff. So if you pay for them, the government is really, really not losing. Even the legislative quarters, remember that at a point in time, those houses were sold to lawmakers. But which country operates like that? It's supposed to be a monument. It's supposed to be what generations after generations will see that, oh, this is a designated area for lawmakers. Over 100 years, our lawmakers have stayed here and lived here and everything. But because government is trying to say, oh, if we don't do certain things, people will loot the property, people will loot everything. So we sell everything and we don't lose out at the end of the day.
You know, Lawrence, it goes back to the discussion we started with the NDLEA, where we know that Nigeria is getting to have a worrisome drug problem. But the NDLEA is not focusing so much on the drug users. They said, for the drug users, we are going to try to rehabilitate you, but we'll go after those who are supplying the drugs and who are making money from it. That is exactly how it is. It's unfortunate that in the past our government has not tackled these issues from the roots. Not tackled the issue from the roots. That is why everybody wants to bring a stopgap measure to just the water is flowing, let me just block the pipe head. No, it's not just blocking the head. What is the issue? Are you understanding me? What is the cause of this problem? So that is why we keep on going around in circles, and it's as if we are not progressing, because we remember how much was expended on building those legislative quarters. Today they've sold all of them. And this is still, if a new government will have to carry police, start hounding his predecessor to begin to recover vehicles that were bought by state government money, that were serviced by state government money, and then you have the right and effrontery. You are not carrying one, you are carrying 30, 40. What do you want to do with 40 vehicles? What does a normal human being want to do with 40 vehicles? I still don't understand. And it is not that these people cannot afford. They can afford it. But you see that greed, and what pushes everybody to see that, let me take what I can from government. Let me take what I can from government. Not what I want to give to government. That is the difference between the kind of government we practice. Everybody believes that once a political and politic gets to one place, you see, even his community people, the moment he's leaving, they will call him stupid man. He didn't do anything for us. You know, someone was telling me about 3 weeks ago about a lawmaker that his people were saying they reject him, he stayed there many years. And I asked them, was his work there to award contracts or to make laws? So you are now trying to say that by default, anybody that enters there should see what he can grab to prove that he has been in that office.
Okay, Amadine, this is a discussion that we cannot end in a day. Maybe one of these days we'll revisit this issue. But thank you so much, Amadine, for your interventions on Insight. It's been really, really